I've never been asked that question, I can tell you that.
Oh man, that's a tough one. I don't know.
That wasn't what I was expecting.
I'm Joanne Dunham Cellars in Walla Walla, Washington. Well, I've been asked, why am I still doing this? I think I've been asked so many of them, and people sometimes ask questions they shouldn't ask because I think they really want to know. But I'm glad I did this. I would never have done this if it hadn't been for Mike and Eric, because it's a risk, and
Sure.
we were with a fine paying job. Everything was going well, but I'm so glad I did, because they really left me in a good spot to carry on with. And it's a lot more fun than selling life insurance.
I won't touch that one.
I can remember we'd go to a party and people would say, "What do you do?" "I sell life insurance," and they couldn't get away fast enough. It's like, I don't want to be one of your next customers. But then if you go to a party and say you have a winery, oh my God, they just think it's the most romantic thing they've ever heard. And, it's a lot of work. I mean, there's romance, but I think the most fun parts are at the events when you're out and about and meeting the people that really enjoy being there and enjoying what you produce. And that's the fun part.
Hi, my name's Andrew Browne. I'm with Browne Family Vineyards. For the audience to know, this was the one thing that I was asked this, I found out that I was gonna get asked this question before, so I gotta think about it. Everything else is just you and me talking and from the hip. So Ray's asking me questions and I don't know what he was gonna ask me. I actually knew this question was coming. So what have I never been asked that I wanted to be asked? I actually wrote it down too. If you would go back to being 30 years old and give a 55-year-old's perspective, that's the question that I'd love to be asked, is what would you do? What would you tell your 30-year-old self? 25 years.
And what would you tell?
Man, it's a list. Invest in family and your close friends. Do what you love. Be kind and listen. Talk less, think more. Write often. Ask lots of questions. Trust in others. Delegate deeply. A mantra that we have at our company: have fun. Time is precious. Do deep work. This is one that's really important to everyone, especially young people. Busy is bullshit. Hire team players who love to learn, grow, and win together. That's what I would tell my 30-year-old self. It's a list, it's a long list, but in that 25-year period, I've gone through a divorce, I've had a second family, I've had loved ones pass away, and we've been able to sit down and say, what would they do? What would Bittner do? What would Gigi do? And so to be able to go back and tell my 30-year-old self those things, lean in to people, love people, like that's been my biggest takeaway on this planet.
My name is Allison Engman. I am one of the owners of Ambassador Wines of Washington. Ironically, you asked it.
What?
Yeah. The whole question about, how did you word it? Why wine? Why is wine important? Yeah. I think, I guess the way that I would phrase it is why is wine, how does wine impact the human experience? Honestly, again, going back to kind of what I said, is I think that it's something that is, it's so important to our history. If you just look past it, wine has been present probably at every major human event that has taken place, whether for good or bad. But it's such an integral part of who we are and society and culture, no matter, if you're from Europe, if you're from South America, from Africa, wherever you're from, right? Wine is always there. And I think it's an interesting subject to discuss, and kind of, like I said, why is that relevant? Why should wine be relevant to us today? And it's especially with what is going on in the world right now. One of the things that's driving me crazy the most is just, those that don't study history are doomed to repeat it. And I feel like we're kind of in that cycle right now. And So I think it is important to look at that and kind of analyze our past and understand why certain things have been done the way that they are and why they continue to exist. There's a reason why wine is still around.
Hi, I'm Dennis Murphy. I'm the winemaker at Caprio Cellars. Well, I ask a lot of questions, so I was excited to see this, and so the question that I've never been asked that I want to be asked: if you were a red wine, what sound would you make?
Oh, I think you got me on this one. And what would that sound be?
I thought of a few, but I really do like the sound of the wind. So I think that calming sound, like when you're in the forest and you can't see it, but you all of a sudden hear that wind gust coming. And the reason I like the wind is it's pretty pure and it's forceful, and when it's used correctly, it's awesome.
My name is Joel Wright. I'm the red winemaker for Chateau Ste. Michelle. I think, especially for my career, that is solely been in Washington State, and nobody has ever asked if I made wine elsewhere in the world. Where would I be working, or what would I be working with? Yeah.
What would that be?
For me, I think you asked, a favorite wine. The past couple of years, I've really fallen in love with the wines of Mount Etna. I love Nerello Mascalese. It's lighter in color and has bright acid, but it has really good structure to it. Really good fruit concentration, and I just love the wines are they're lively and focused, and I would love to work with some of those grapes. Nerello Mascalese. I think it would be pretty cool.
My name is Jason Gorski. I'm the Vice President of Winemaking at DeLille Cellars in Woodinville, Washington. And I've gotten asked, what creative thing is in my brain that I haven't seen come to light. This project has allowed me to do so many different things. I don't know. I mean, I don't really actually have an answer to that. There's probably things that I want the world to know. Go back to bad advice. I think you learn a lot from your prior bosses about what not to do. Yeah. And I had someone that was just, the vineyards are great. I'm like, dude, you're not giving any credit to him. It was that statement saying that it's just the wine quality, and whether you like it or not is purely the vineyard. And I reject that statement so hard, because it's not just the site. The site has to be special. The vines have to be special. But everyone in the field is busting their ass to take care of that vine. And then you hand it to a bunch of winemakers that have to bust their ass to help protect and steward that grape to bottle. And then you have to hand it to great people that can share it with the world. It's not just the fucking vineyard. And it drives me nuts when people are just, and it's not a deflection. That's not sharing the gratitude that should be shown to all of those hands. That's why this behind me exists, by the way, that's just a firm philosophy that I've tried to bring to this project. Was like, this is not about one person. This is about the community, all the way through to the final purchaser, that's then going to go even share it with the people that they love, or new people that they're meeting for the first time that they'll be great friends with. We need all of that, and you're doing it. It's a disservice to the ancient history of winemaking and enjoying wine together. It's just the dirt. Bullshit. It's not possible without the dirt, but let's be honest.
Hello, I'm Marissa Dineen from Dineen Vineyards in the Yakima Valley of Washington. I would like to be asked what makes Dineen wine special, which you asked me today, Ray. But most consumers don't ask that. But they get to taste it.
My name is Corey Braunel. I am the co-owner and wine grower at Dusted Valley Winery in Walla Walla, Washington. Well, I guess I can just pull it back to my family. No one's really ever asked me, why did you do this with your brother-in-law?
That's a really good question.
And I think that because I think a lot of folks look at this, and the wine is such an individuality thing, right? It's an expression of a person, usually a winemaker, someone that's put on that pedestal, so to speak. But Chad and I have attacked it along with our wives from day one together, and we've even been referred to as, I think, as a two-headed monster, right? Because, but it's I think that that part of it has been tremendously beneficial to us and our family to be able to think about things in a different way, right? The way I can assure you, the way my brother-in-law's mind is wired versus the way my mind is wired are very different, and we play off of that quite well. And so there's a tremendous mutual respect for one another in terms of kind of how we approach things and how we get to our answers, and I think that comes through in our wines. It's not just Chad that's involved in the winemaking and blending. It's a team effort. I'm involved with that. Also, our production winemaker, Chris. And so, we work together to really hammer out these fine details, if you will. And I think that that's been a real collaborative spirit over the last 20 plus years.
I'm JJ Williams from Kiona Vineyards and Winery in Washington State's Red Mountain AVA. The question that I don't get is why wine? Everyone kind of assumes that people who listen to wine media or consume wine media are into wine, and then there's people who are completely outside of the wine world who are kind of oblivious to what we're doing. And in the wine industry, we're very good at talking to people who already like wine. And I think the answer to that question is why wine? And we need to direct that question and that answer to the people that maybe don't count themselves amongst the wine cognoscenti, right? So wine has been with us for a long time. For as long as there's been human conversation over a dinner table, civilization, writing, philosophy, religion, theology, there's been wine. And in the wine industry, we are very good about talking about the minutia and the quality of what we are doing. But I think the focus needs to be how wine makes you feel and how you use wine. If you think backwards through the moment, and the moment to us at Kiona and to me is this idea of someone sitting down at a table with someone that they love or someone that they care about and opening a bottle of wine and pouring it. And you can picture it. They're smiling, they're enjoying each other's company, they're going to have a nice evening, probably a nice meal. And then you work backwards through time, where we need to deliver a compelling product at a compelling price and do all of the quality things that we always talk about with wine, but we stop when the wine leaves the warehouse, right? And we need to think about that corner bistro on the corner, the one that you love, that has a rotating seasonal menu and outdoor seating and an espresso machine in the back. And we need to work backwards from that point and think about how wine is consumed and how it greases the wheels of conversation. And people don't often enjoy wine and have a bad time or do it with people that they don't like. Right? So wine is kind of like, what is your cost per smile? Right? And wine, I could argue more so than perhaps other alcoholic beverages even, because of the way that we drink it, really is connected with this idea of being with people that you like and having a nice time with them. And that is important. We need to keep that in mind whenever we communicate about wine or try to get people to visit a wine tasting room or, put a shelf talker up at a wine shop to try to get someone to buy something. We always need to think about that end point and work backwards from there. And, a lot of times wine marketing is very much like if we were to equate it to selling a car, like a car ad, right? So not very many car ads list the specific points, the technical details of the car, right? It's not like, hey, why should I buy this car? Car manufacturers don't say the parts all conform to ISO 9000 standards, and it was designed by, this team who, has 4,000 years of industry experience, and it makes 392 horsepower. Like, we don't list, there's no bullet points. What they're selling is the way the car makes you feel, or the way the car makes you look. And wine needs to do the same thing.
I'm Jesus Martinez Bujanda from Valdemar family. I don't think I've been asked in the winery ever, like what I will be or what career I would like to pursue if it will not be wine. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've been asked that.
What would that be?
I always wanted to start my own business, and I guess I didn't arrive to the point where I knew what business was that, but I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and kind of just did. I started this project, even if it is 100% owned by my father, my sister, and I, and it's part of the business, but I mean, it is kind of a sister business or a new business, but I think, that was my dream. It was to start my own business and be an entrepreneur.
Devyani Isabel Gupta, head winemaker and viticulturist at Valdemar Estates. That is an excellent question, but also a tough question. I wish people would ask more about me as a person, because I think both in the industry and on the customer facing side, I think wine is a really good crutch and a really good way to kind of talk about the wine, where you feel like you're connecting with someone and getting to know them, but you're really just talking about wine the whole time. And that's a pitfall, I think, both in the industry, where you're talking with peers and you realize you'll know someone for 10 years and never know their kids' names. So there's situations like that where I think wine is almost, by focusing on that, you don't necessarily ask questions about the person. But also I think on the industry side, we do get really stuck on tech notes and scores, and not so much on the people that played a huge part in making this wine, and how their personality as a team shows in the bottle. So, because there's of course the vineyard component, but terroir includes people. So.
My name is Marty Clubb. I'm the owner and managing winemaker at L'Ecole number 41 here in the Walla Walla Valley in Washington State. Well, I kind of had a little bit of a hint that about this, because I've admired your podcasts in the wine industry. I think given the challenges going on in the industry, particularly the challenges going on in Washington State, the question is, what's the future for Washington wine? Where is Washington's future with wine? And I personally think that despite the little bit of sales slump that's going on in the marketplace, our future is really bright, because historically we had, a very prominent large winery, Chateau Saint Michel, being what was visible in the marketplace representing Washington. And even though we have a lot of wineries, the vast majority of those wineries were small, direct-to-consumer, retail operated, and what we lacked was an industry that had a larger number of middle-tier, high-quality producers available in national distribution. Now we are seeing the emergence of more brands with developing distribution, more visibility on the East Coast. L'Ecole is actually perfectly positioned for that, because we've worked hard to build our distribution channels. But there's many other Washington wineries coming along in this tier. And so the opportunity for us to, instead of focusing on $10 and under wines, the ability to focus on $25, $30, more expensive, higher quality wines as the core centerpiece of what Washington can do, is going to change our perception in the national marketplace for the quality of the wines. And for me, that's probably the most exciting thing that's going to come down the road.
I am Jean-Francois Pellet. I am the director of winemaking here at Pepper Beach Winery, as well as the partners. Coming from Switzerland, I'm all the time being pretty, attracted and promotive of sustainable. But I think now we're not sustainable. We're really moving more to regenerative agriculture. And really the key for us is, really try to turn those soil in a better shape than we took it and give them. But I get asked all time why, and maybe this is go back to your question, is why you only sustainable? And we are way behind sustainable. I mean, sustainability, we used to be certified sustainable. We were the first winery certified sustainable. Between the vineyard and the winery were certified sustainable. And I had to almost excuse myself. But it's just interesting, and I will never say bad thing about others, like other system, but I didn't believe on it. So this is maybe one of the things that was actually kind of why people had me a question about what do you really mean about sustainable? Because we know the 3 pillars of sustainability is, it's, obviously environmental, people and the money, but I think you can develop this at so much different level. So,
my name is Mark Kaigas. I'm the winemaker here at Quilceda Creek. I try to be pretty open with people on tours, but I think that the interesting question would be kind of what's your favorite part about this industry? And because I think that's one of those questions that people come in and they want to know minute details, and sometimes it's just to jump back to 25,000 square feet and say something along those lines.
Hi, I'm Bobby Richards, winemaker at Seven Hills Winery here in Walla Walla, Washington. I think the question would be, I've never been asked, is what scares you the most about making wine?
Wow, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So what is it?
Making a bad wine and not being able to, solve the problem. That would be it, is, been trained to make great wines. We work with great fruit. That my job going forward, my analogy I tell everybody in winemaking is that, we're working the best possible fruit. This is like a chef having a Wagyu steak, right? They're not going to create this whole marinade and all this sauce for it. They really want to showcase that meat all the way through the dish. And as winemakers, working with that best fruit, our job is to continue that all the way until bottle. And it's a simple process for us is we just don't fuck it up along the way, and we're good. So my fear, I guess, is fucking it up along the way.
Hi, my name is Mike Martin. I'm the owner and founder of the Walls Vineyards, Pasha Wines, and Stanley Groovy Wines. When was the moment you decided that you needed to do a winery?
You mean the moment you lost your mind?
Yes.
And when was that?
Believe it or not, I'll tell the story. It was when I was 18 years old. I saw a movie called Risky Business, which was a then fairly unknown actor, Tom Cruise, and one of the lines in that movie was, sometimes you just got to say WTF. And I think I was on my way to college. I think I saw it like 2 weeks before I left for college, and it always stuck with me, although for the next 30 years I was the ultimate hoop jumper, did all these things that made me quote unquote successful, made people think I was successful. And I think that always gnawed at me, and I think eventually when I got to a point in my life where I was kind of back to that movie and it being 18 years old, and I figured out all right, I'm going to do what I want to do. And maybe, Joel in that movie does it when he's 17. It took me a little bit longer, but that was when I said, I'm going to do crazy shit, start a winery, and if it fails, so what? But at least I tried. And that was really, in some ways, that was the seed for this winery, was an 18-year-old kid sitting in a movie theater watching a movie in the early 80s.
I'm Brandon Moss, winemaker and partner at Gramercy Cellars. So as I was thinking about this question, I like it because I feel like every winemaker has this moment, but my question is, what is your epiphany wine? What is the wine that really solidified why you're doing this or what you're doing, or just maybe drove the style that you want to make. And for me, it was Thierry Allemand Cornas, Syrah from France, and it was like this meaty, hedonistic Syrah that showed these characters that like I just hadn't really seen in Syrah. And when I started with Gramercy, I was still a young guy, and I just hadn't been exposed to some of these like really cool producers and didn't know about them. And so linking up with Greg, he exposed me to some producers that I just didn't know about. And so when I tried that wine, I was just like, whoa, this is what Syrah can be? Like, this is like this hedonistic wild beast of a Syrah. And so that wine to me like really solidified why I love Syrah. But then also I had another wine when I came to Walla Walla. I was telling you I came here for a couple weeks and did a tasting for the weekend, and that what kind of solidified me coming here is I was at a winery called Waters, and they had a Forgotten Hills Syrah. Gramercy now owns Forgotten Hills, so we bought that vineyard, but I tasted that Forgotten Hills Syrah and had that same feeling as that Thierry Allemand Cornas.
Oh, that had to be crazy.
It was so wild and elegant and had this iodine-y, bloody thing, and I was like, man, those are some really cool flavors in that wine, and honestly, after tasting that wine, I was like, I want to make that.